My name is Eileen. I am a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet, write them down, commit them to my sponsor, don't eat in between no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in the world to me. And I've been abstinent since January 25th, 2015. And I'm going to do my best to tell people what it was like, what happened, well, what it's like now. Um, a lot happens. So, just to qualify myself as a compulsive eater, food was my solace and my best friend for as long as I could remember. I grew up in an angry, violent home where there was love that was present but not always available. Um, I came out of an alcoholic background. Almost everyone that I knew in my life as an adult was an alcoholic. And I have two siblings, and all three of us are in recovery programs of one kind or another. And my mom was a compulsive eater who actually sought out Overeaters Anonymous when I was a kid, and managed to lose weight, stay in for 30 days. And then she just said it was silly to just commit her food to somebody every day. So she stopped. So I did have a sense that there was some place to turn. And I'm in the beverage program as well. And I partake in Al-Anon recovery. And all those things have really helped me to be the person that I can be in the world. But the very first thing I turned to that I wanted more of was food. And I mean, I remember crawling around the cupboards looking for this ingredient that my mom used to make things with that was literally liquid sugar. And I would just eat it in spoonfuls out of the jar. And I can remember just finding that, it was on a lower cupboard shelf so I could reach it and everything. But I don't know, maybe I was 4 or 5. And my dad ran the bingo game at the local church, and he would have these 5-pound boxes of sugar in bags for coffee, and I would eat them one after another out of the box. And he kept the box on the bottom of his closet, so I would just go in there and close the door and eat the sugar packets. And I remember my sister came in on me once and said, "You eat the paper too?" And I said, "Yes, it's bad." But nobody said, "Don't do that, Eileen," And I remember going away to school and coming back, and the first person that I wanted to greet was the refrigerator, and so in my family, I learned quickly that it wasn't okay to need anything that they couldn't readily give me. And so I made it my business to take care of myself. And this is how I took care of myself. I mean, I'm grateful to the food for giving me somewhere to go when my feelings were out of control. And they were often out of control. So that's about my family. Eating was affordable, and I used to go to the candy store, at the corner market, and Sadie would count out my penny things, and she was my best friend. And I thought the best job in the world would be to have Sadie's job, where she could just be with that stuff all day long and have, Halloween was my favorite, my very favorite holiday. And yeah, so, but I was known as a picky eater, and I didn't put on weight until I hit puberty. So I don't know how that worked. All I knew was that to me, sugar was magic. And when all else failed, and often all else failed, I could count on the stuff that I bought at Sadie's to always be the same. People were not stable, they were not predictable, but a thing was a thing was a thing. and it would taste the same, and it would do the job for me. So once I hit puberty, the weight started coming on, and I no longer felt okay in when I compared myself to my peers. That was not okay. It was not okay to be pudgy. It was not okay. I didn't have the figure that everybody wanted. I didn't look like a Barbie doll, and I didn't look like Twiggy. And those were my models. Sorry, but that's what I had to choose from. And so I was always on a diet. My mom and I were dieting buddies. We would count calories together, make charts, put them inside the cupboards in the kitchen, and track our food. And I could always lose weight on a diet. I could always do that. And a diet to me, I defined as something where I couldn't eat the food that I really wanted to eat. And I had to eat food that tasted dry, bitter, without any kind of flavoring. And I couldn't wait until the diet was over so that I could eat what I wanted to eat. And so, as you can imagine, my existence was like a yo-yo. I just up and down the scale I went. And I would diet to when I didn't have a boyfriend. And then when I had a boyfriend, it was always disappointing because boys, I was reading the 17 magazines and stuff, and I was just trying to be the best girlfriend possible. And the boys that I was interested in were not equally committed to being the best boyfriend in the world. And, frankly, they disappointed me all the time. And I would break up with them, and then I would eat because, that would make me feel a little bit better. But then I would be pudgy, and then I would want a boyfriend, and then I'd have to. So I started doing that like early on. And and I was good in school, which was good because I didn't study. I wasn't able to do homework at home. Whatever I could, remember, I could remember for tests and things like that. So I got good grades. And as long as I could remember, I wanted to get out of Torrington, Connecticut. That's where I was raised. It was a mill town. Everybody's dad worked in the factory. Everybody's mom worked in the factory, if they worked at all. And my mom was a nurse, and I didn't want to do that. And my dad thought the best job would be if he could get me a sales job at the factory. And, he thought I could do that. He thought I was smart. I went to school. I wanted to get away and get away and get away. And so I did. That's really what I concentrated on. I went away to school. I loved college. I don't remember a thing that I learned there, but it was like going to a school of teenagers, and everybody was my age, and I don't know, it just was great. But the eating got worse, and the dieting got more severe, and so I did that. And then I got out of college and got a job and wasn't happy doing that. And then I got another job, and then I got another job, and then I went to grad school. Then I met my husband. And I remember when he met my family, he said to me, "Don't get fat like your mother." And that could have been a warning sign, but I thought it was just probably good advice at the time. But it did register, it didn't feel good. And now I have to tell you, I had no people skills. I had no ability to talk about my feelings. I didn't know what they were. I didn't want to know what they were. I just wanted to be the way you wanted me to be so we could be friends, or we could be special, or I could get an A in your class. I would turn myself inside out. When I saw the movie Zelig, it was with Woody Allen. It was just really creepy because that was me. I could just turn myself into whatever you wanted me to be. And I was convinced that whatever I was bad. And if you got close to me, you would find out what it was that everybody knew but me that made me unacceptable. And so I tried to keep you at sort of a distance. the point is, the marriage failed. I had a little girl who was 6 years old, and I left her dad. Thank you, 5 minutes. And I was convinced that I was a horrible mother, and I was convinced that people were going to knock on my door now that I wasn't attached to her father, and they were going to take her away from me. And I lived with that fear. It was just an incredible fear. That's when I got sober. That's when I was introduced to OA, found the Gray Sheet food plan, which people did in the meetings I went to with exceptions. But I was really interested in losing weight, and I found I could lose weight on the Gray Sheet easily. But the problem was I could never keep it off. And, I went to these meetings and I said I was a compulsive overeater, but I didn't really believe it. I just thought I need to find a way to control my weight. And once I do that, I'll be okay. I'm really not as sick as you guys. I mean, there were a lot of really, really sick people in the room that I was going to. And anyway, I found Gray Sheet, without exception, Gray Sheet in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1995. And I took to it really well. And for the first time in my life, I was not trying to, I just surrendered. And I was able to do that for almost 20 years. And then I went to a restaurant in a very dark room with this very tiny table, and I couldn't see my scale. And at some point in the meal, I just said, well, this has to be good enough, because I couldn't remember how many ounces of cooked vegetables I had weighed, and I'd started eating already. It was just too confusing. And I was out of the habit of calling people because I had moved to Taos, New Mexico, and I didn't have a big network of people. And I had anyway, I was going to one meeting a week, that kind of thing. So I started my day count again. And that was in January 25th, 2015. And I've been abstinent ever since. I realized that I needed more connection in order to stay abstinent. And I got involved, and I got into World Service, and I met all kinds of wonderful GreySheeters, and I went to the World Service Conference, and it was just amazing, and got involved in a lot of stuff. And I really recommend service. And with only 2 minutes left, I just want to say I just came back from a trip to Spain with my daughter. And it is possible to do all kinds of wonderful things in abstinence. And I was able to talk to somebody on this meeting every day for the whole time I was there. So thank you, Sarah, for that. And I was able to commit my food to a live GreySheeter every day, which was awesome. I don't like to eat at restaurants too much because they're so expensive. And I just prefer my own cooking, to be honest. Even when I'm traveling, I prefer my own cooking. So we stayed in an Airbnb, and we went shopping. And that's the first thing I do when I travel. And the meals were fine. The travel was fine. I'm so scared that, I'm going to have delays, and I'm going to run out of food, and I'm not going to be able to. And none of that ever happens. And I've traveled all over Europe, and I've traveled to New Zealand abstinently. And you can do anything abstinently, but you need to have help. You need to be connected, and you need to stay connected. And so I think that that's the secret to a happy abstinence, because, when you first come in, it's kind of weird. People talk weird things. They say their mantras. It sounds odd. But I have a relationship with a higher power because I do the steps, because when I stopped eating, all my feelings came up, and I didn't know what to do with them, and I didn't know how to talk about them, and I just didn't know anything until I started to reach out to other GreySheeters and ask them how they do their food, and ask them how they do their life, and, talk to them about my feelings, because even in AA, I think GreySheeter feelings are stronger than just a normal recovering alcoholic's feelings. And anyway, I need everything that Gray Sheet has to offer. And I encourage people to do the whole thing. And I love my abstinence and I love my life. And I so appreciate being able to share my experience, strength, and hope. Thank you.